Aloha and welcome. In this video, we're going to be talking about accounts again. We're going to be talking about controls and maintenance. So let's go ahead and open up our text and jump right into it. So account controls exist so that we can control the user's ability to gain access to the system. So what kind of controls do we have out there? Well, one is going to be geolocation. We can use geolocation to actually determine where a user is logging in from. So over here, it says geolocation is the use of location technologies such as GPS coordinate or an IP address to identify the location of an electronic device. Then we've got geotagging. Geotagging is the process of adding geographical information to a device. So geotagging can be used to allow a device to access a system only if the device is at a specific GPS coordinate or has a specific IP address. So sometimes for IP addresses, we'll know that, for example, if we have people logging in remotely, they're going to be assigned to a certain range of IP addresses. So we want to make sure that they have one of those. Or geolocation, we want to make sure that they're not operating outside of our state or outside of the city, maybe outside of the country. There's different ways to restrict that. And then we've got geofencing. And geofencing is the practice of using GPS or RFID to define a virtual perimeter for a geographical boundary. So a geofence area is a predetermined GPS-based area from which a user can log into a user's account. So that's kind of neat because now we're locking down physically where a user can connect from. We can say an IP range, which is going to be like, knowing that they're connecting through our remote servers or a VPN, something like that, or we know that we've got people that are in a certain area, whether it's the city, state, country, things like that, or even we can use geofencing to narrow that down even further if we'd like. Uh, So there's also some other techniques that are used to deny login attempts. One of them is called impossible travel time. If you've ever played Pokemon Go and you tried to spoof your location, you'll know exactly what this is. You'll get a soft ban because if you log in, let's say 1 minute you're in Honolulu and you log in Japan 5 minutes later, and I'm referring to not Pokemon here, but computers. But if you try to log in from a different location, the system should realize that, hey, it's not possible for them to, travel all that distance in a short amount of time. So obviously these attempts are suspicious. So you can have it lock people out according to that. So a device's network location is a device's connection point to a network. So network location, it can be determined using your MAC address or your IP address. So it can try to geolocate you using that information. So if you ever do a lookup of your IP address, you'll see that it's going to try to estimate where you are. Sometimes it can miss. If you're using a VPN, that can get really inaccurate. But if you're not using a VPN, sometimes it can guess the city, the general area, but it's not going to be extremely specific. Um, so a device's network location, it can be used to control users' account access, as we talked about before. So their example here is a user account may be configured to be only accessible from an IP address assigned to a user's laptop. And then we have time of day restrictions. So if you want to control when a person can actually connect in here, like if you want to make sure that nobody's doing overtime, you can say, hey, we're going to make it where you can only log in Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. So that's going to be your time-based login. And that's going to, that's your time of day. But then you've also got time-based login, which enables you to set the specific time at which they can log in to. So, so yeah, so we can look over here at the graph, and this is Windows specific here. So this is in Windows Server 2019. If we do a zoom in here, we can see that we have a range. We have all days. We have Sunday through Saturday, and we can just click on and then drag and set the number of hours that they can actually log in. So we're saying here specifically that they can only log in between 8 and 5 p.m. on weekdays. And then we can set login permitted, or we can say the opposite, login denied. So this is login permitted, so it means we're only working our work days here. So the summary of it is listed down here too. So Just remember, time of day restricts it's the restrictions that specify when a user can log in. Then over here, time-based login and now enables a user to log in to a user-specific account at a specific time. Then we're going to do some mix and matches here, and we're going to do some answering to, just to kind of solidify all that information in your head. So with account maintenance, accounts may seem to work for you, but you should audit them on occasion just to make sure that you've got your settings right. You want to make sure that a user isn't allowed to do more than they should be able to, and you want to make sure that they have at least what they need to be able to do to complete their job. In general, we have this concept called the concept of least privilege, which means you give them just enough ability to do their work. And that's the extent that you don't want to give them more privileges than they need, because then it becomes a security liability. So it also mentions here that an account audit is performed periodically and can be manual or automatic. That's something to keep in mind. So it can be automated as well. And like I had mentioned earlier in an earlier video about disabling and locking different accounts, sometimes you may want to disable an account. One time is like if you have somebody that's on leave or something, but you can also disable an account that's in the system. It's going to leave it in the system, but it's not going to be accessible by the account owner. There's different reasons why you'd want to do that. I mentioned if someone's on leave and it's not going to be using their account, or if they've left the company, you want to keep the account alive, but you want somebody else to access the data, you can set it as a disabled account during that time period. But one of the interesting things is in a brute force attack, when you've got somebody that's just hammering a password username combination, and they try it, you can lock them out. So you can lock them out and disable them. And you can use a lockout duration to do that. Say, okay, let's say after you've messed up 3 times, if you've missed your password 3 times in a span of 15 minutes, we'll go ahead and lock you out. And we're going to lock you out for an hour or something like that. And then we'll open it back up. You can set that to any way you want. You can set where it won't actually unlock for a while, or you can set it where it'll just automatically have that lockout duration of that hour. So you can do it either way. So there's a lot of variability you can set, and you'll set it somewhere like this in your Windows group policy. So if we zoom in here, we see again we're in our local computer policy here. We get down to our security settings into the account lockout policy. So you can say the account lockout duration. It's not implemented, it looks like. And then you've got the account lockout threshold, and it's going to be 0 invalid logon attempts, which I believe is after even 1, it's going to lock you out. So and then reset account lockout counter after, then you'll put in a time here. So they haven't actually entered that in. Perhaps in here, yeah. So Windows environment users uses the group policy editor to configure group policy objects for account maintenance and device settings. So account lockout duration defines the number of minutes a locked out account remains locked out before automatically becoming unlocked. So that's going to be how long your duration is. Then the account lockout threshold defines the number of failed login attempts that cause a user account to be locked out. So here they're saying 0. Then reset account lockout counter after defines the number of minutes that must pass after a failed login attempt before the failed login attempt or logon attempt counter is set to 0. So you may have like an hour cooling off period. That's done to prevent people from brute force attacking. If you can go and try 2 or 3 passwords per second over and over and over, you can get through a lot of them really quickly, and you can try to crack it. But if you were to get in 3 passwords and then all of a sudden you have to wait an hour, you're never going to be able to brute force that. It's just going to be too difficult. So these kind of policies help you strengthen the ability to keep hackers from getting in and brute forcing accounts. So more stuff for you to do here. Attestation. So attestation is the process of verifying a device's hardware and software configurations to ensure the trustworthiness. So as it says here, the attestation enhances the account security by ensuring only compliant devices access network resources. The attestation can also integrate the geofencing and time-based restrictions that we talked about previously, and that's going to add a security layer to prevent potentially compromised devices from accessing service sensitive data. And we have the ability here. So it mentions, for an example, that when you have a laptop connect to an organization's network, it's going to do attestation to verify that the laptop's antivirus software is up to date and that the laptop's firewall is enabled prior to granting network access. So there's different types of these things. There's some where you have to install the software, some where it's temporarily installed and then it dissolves after. So there's different types of doing that, and I don't think we're going to get into that here, but just know that attestation is when you connect to a network, there are things that you have to do, things that have to be attested to that you're good and clean to go before you use that network, because they want to make sure that you can't jeopardize their network by being on it. So they want to make sure that you're, free of viruses and your firewall is up to date. There's a lot of other things that they can look for and make sure are set, but those are the main ones. So anyway, that's it for our accounts. If you have any questions about the accounts, controls, and maintenance, like the geolocation, geotagging, geofencing, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk about this. This is kind of the fun stuff. This is the nice granular tools that you can use to really lock down where people are connecting from, when they're allowed to connect, things like that. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer. Email is jsj3@hawaii.edu. Feel free to reach out with questions, and I will see you in the next video. Aloha.